In this episode, we'll be discussing the recent events in the border. Now, the border isn't even close to being a new concern. It's been debated for decades and decades and even centuries. But what makes this situation different is that Biden directly contributed to it. Basically, when Biden was running for president, guess what he did? He promised to let all those people in, to help build new pathways and to make everything better. But once he actually got elected, he didn't keep his promises. He promised no deportations, and he deported tens of thousands of people in his first few months. And then his supporters came and rallied around him and said, it's because of the courts. But Biden is in charge of the courts. When Trump was blaming the courts over them shooting down some of his proposals, the Democrats said, well, he chose the courts. But when it happened to Biden, they didn't say any of that. They just said, it's the court's fault and that's it. But Biden is responsible for appointing the courts. Not to mention that Biden has been in politics for over 40 years. Meaning, he understands how things work. He knows the system. And he made all these promises despite knowing how the system works. And he could have easily just chosen judges. What happened as a result of all these promises is that people got hopeful. All these people from Latin America, they flooded the border. Why? Because Biden promised them that he'd help them out and he'd let them in. But he didn't keep his promise, obviously. But what we have to understand is that these are good people. They aren't, what people call rapists or drug dealers or whatnot. They're good people who want better lives for themselves and their families. When Black Lives Matter was happening and people were saying defund the police, you know what the Republicans said? They said, no, stop generalizing people. Stop generalizing people like that. They're just a few bad apples. But when it comes to the Latin American immigrants, it appears that they're all bad people who want to do harm and steal our jobs. But just use common sense. Some people whine about how the border takes up a few $100s of their tax money each year. But what these people don't think about is that immigrants contribute more to the economy than even them, or much more than even the rich people. Let's just say, for an example purpose, that each year the border takes up $100 of your tax money. $100. And then when these people are let into the country and they start to work, what happens? They get taxes. And these people don't just pay $100 back in taxes, they pay thousands. Meaning that $100 that you contributed to these people will now come back in thousands and tens of thousands. These people are now paying for social programs, the schools and so on. Because of that $100 which you invested in them, they're bringing back thousands more back to you and your community. Because guess what? People need to live. They're paying for water, electricity, food, local consumer goods, and so on. These people are helping the local economies. And then when you have these local communities, which are expanding and growing, they form mega communities. And these mega communities help to contribute to the whole state. This whole chain of expansion due to immigration is nothing new, and it helps to expand the whole country and the economy. It starts at the city level and then it goes to county level and then it goes to state level. And eventually, when you have all of this happening all over the country, it affects the whole nation's economy. It helps to boost everything. When you have the countries which have pretty much no immigration, where their population isn't diverse, that's what's happening to them. They're either stagnating or they're decaying. You look at countries like Japan or Russia and most of Eastern Europe, their populations are falling and stagnating. Because guess what? No one immigrates and people are leaving. This whole country was built on immigrants. Only a few million people nowadays are actually natives. Pretty much everyone else is an immigrant or the descendant of an immigrant. Immigration helps to fuel the country. And for every dollar that you invest in a rich person, you don't even get $1 back. You get much less, like 70 cents. But when you invest in someone who's poor or an immigrant who came over with barely anything, it brings back much more than you originally gave. And then at the end of the day, once they become integrated into society, once they get a job and start paying for their stuff, they'll pay back much more than you contributed in the first place. And not to mention, as I said before, these are good people. They just want the best for themselves and their families. Because guess what? A rapist wouldn't travel thousands of miles in the brutal heat, in danger of dying or getting caught by the police constantly, and living in fear for months, just so that they could go into the border to rape someone. Where's the common sense? These people want better lives for their families. They're escaping violence back home. They're not causing the violence. People escape because they don't want to be a part of this mess. Are the people fleeing Syria because, they want to bring down the world? No. They want a better life. They want to escape the violence. They don't want to be a part of this mess. They don't want any of it. Point is, these are good people, and by investing in them, we get so much more in return. They should be let in, and we need to develop a proper way of doing such. And Biden hasn't done a good job at it. Biden has just made the situation worse. The system was already overflooded. Biden is just making it much worse. Biden could have obviously done a much better job. He pretty much just promised it to get votes at this point. I mean, it's nothing new in politics. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.